going, everyone? How's it going? Good day, good afternoon. Um, I'm actually live streaming right now, both on YouTube and Instagram. So, hello to all my friends on Instagram. Welcome to my YouTube channel as well. This is the Conscious Chicano, and this is um, the Conscious Chat Room number 2. And let's see here. Let me just say hello in my comment section. And definitely, I'm the Conscious Chicano. I've been pushing consciousness for a long time and been heavily involved in the Chicano native, you know, activist community. And I just want to share a lot of knowledge here and maybe get other people to join me. The first 30 minutes I'll go into a specific topic, and the the following 30 minutes I'll open it up for you guys to join my chat room. I'll post my link there. You could come on, my YouTube. Just follow the chat room rules. I have them all down there below the video. Just basically keep it respectful. It's dialogue. No personal attacks. No weirdos. Sometimes there's weirdos that come on these chats and everything, just talking a lot of nonsense. So none of that. Just keep it civil. Let's get a philosophical dialogue. So you guys know, I'm also a philosopher as well, a Chicano philosopher. I have a degree in philosophy, and I study philosophy. So, um, and also click on my links. Join my other social networks. I'm on Instagram as well, and join me on Twitter. I know right here on YouTube I have to be kind of more positive and mainstream. So there's certain topics I can't really talk about here. You'll get censored if you do. So if you want to get deeper, subscribe to my Rumble channel. It's down there in the link, and also add me on Twitter. So I'm on Twitter as well now. So just sharing a lot of knowledge there. We go deep there as well. Um, so definitely, and subscribe to this channel as well. Right here on YouTube, I'm just gonna talk about general mainstream stuff, and it's not gonna get really too underground. If you want to get underground, just go to my Rumble and Twitter accounts, and even Instagrams. They're a little bit open to stuff too. So, but anyways, welcome. So this the topic today is a critique of Chicano mainstream politics. So there's gonna be a lot of Chicanos out here. They're not gonna like what I say, but I have to do it, because I see a lot of Chicanos and Chicanas just falling for mainstream politics out here. And the problem out here is, we have this, um, two-party system that's corrupt, that has sold out, and it's like, and you got both of these parties basically dictating our way of thinking, and a lot of us embrace this two-party system and allow these people to determine what should be political and what shouldn't be, you know. So, and some of you people in the Chicano movement, Native movement, have even been influenced by politics as well. So, and let me tell you a little history of my involvement in politics. Early on, you know, I was you know I got into politics. Um, I started off as a Republican because I didn't really have any conscious knowledge about politics, and then eventually I became a liberal, a Democrat, and got really involved in the whole Bernie Sanders movement. Was over there promoting him everywhere and knocking door to door, telling people to vote for Bernie and stuff like that. And then after being involved in that, um, I was like, I saw what happened, and especially with the whole Democratic establishment, how Bernie Sanders was basically, he was screwed over in the political realm, and I figured out, man, there's a structure, and it's found in both the right wing and the left wing, where it's this whole belief about democracy. You know, we have this belief that democracy works and is for the people and by the people. And I discovered with my experience of what happened in the whole Bernie Sanders campaign that there is no democracy. And this actually led me to really dive into politics, even political philosophy. Prior to this experience, I was a kind of like a Marxist. I would study a lot of philosophy. I'd taken classes in Marxist philosophy. Um, you know, um, that was my academic major, philosophy. So I studied political philosophy, different types of political philosophies out here. And after that experience with the whole Bernie Sanders thing, I mean, actually let me backtrack. So I got involved, and actually let me go all the way back to the beginning again. So early on, I was a Republican, right? I was a conservative. I was part of like supporting Pat Robertson back in the day to become president. I was involved in the Christian Coalition, and then eventually and I wasn't really political after that. I was promoting a lot of that politics right there. And then what happened is you know I I was apolitical. I wasn't into the system and this and that. um, and then I saw this whole Bernie Sanders guy, and I'm like, oh, okay. um, he was talking a lot of good stuff, like uh, getting rid of student debt and everything. As us college students, we accumulate a lot of this student debt and everything, and student loans. So that really got me and my friends into it. So me and my friends were all like talking about it. Oh, this guy's pretty good, you know. And I found out later on that this whole student debt agenda is just it's a scam, just to get just people to vote for certain people. Even Biden used that whole student debt stuff. So, but I fell for it, and so did my friends, and not only the student debt stuff, but we just kind of liked what Bernie Sanders was saying, promoting democratic socialism. I was already kind of like a Marxist, and he's I wasn't well, now they distinguish. Now, I mean, they distinguish between a real socialist and a democratic socialist. So there's a lot of people don't even know the difference between those two. Um, you know, but I was definitely involved in promoting socialism, and democratic socialism was kind of mainstream. The more underground you get into, you become a socialist, or eventually you lead to communism and stuff like that. So, but I saw Bernie Sanders as a way to make change in society, and hopefully he will get elected. But then I saw what happened to him. How he was screwed over, twice. You know, the first time he was screwed over by Hillary Clinton. And Hillary Clinton was I would dig into her politics. Man, it was corrupt. She was, in imperial promoting military imperialism. She was a warmonger and stuff like that, and just even like using feminism to push her imperialism and stuff like that. So I'm like, oh man, this lady's corrupt, and how she was all sold out to the corporations and all that, and claiming to be for the people, but not really. Um, just a elite, democratic, liberal elitists, and just using people of color for their own agenda to promote themselves and everything. So I didn't fall for the whole Hillary Clinton. So I like the whole Bernie Sanders stuff. But then I started looking into Bernie Sanders and everything and his long history. And I actually came across I guess it was a Green Party guy. What was his name? I'm trying to remember his name. It's been a while. But this one Green Party guy, real famous Green Party guy. If you guys don't know what a Green Party is, it's like a third party. They're neither Democrat or Republican. And what was his name? I'm just trying to recall it. It's been a while. But he used to have a show on KPFK and everything. He probably still does, but he uh, he exposed the whole corruption with I guess the Pinto car. Remember back, if you old school heads remember the Pinto car back in the 80s. Um, I think it even goes back to the 70s as well. But he exposed them. I guess it's because they were dangerous, and if someone crashed in the back of the car, the I guess it would explode or something like that. And so he filed I guess it was a class act lawsuit, and he won against it, and they stopped manufacturing those Pinto cars. And so he started you know, getting involved in a lot of, you know, um, politics and everything. And he came out. I'm just trying to recall his name. Let me actually. Uh, I'll do it some other time. Sometimes you forget names when you're on live and stuff like that. But anyways, it'll probably pop up sometimes, like that. Certain words pop up, or names, as I talk. So we'll see. But he he came out. Ralph Nader. That's what it is. Ralph Nader. Ooh, there you go. Came out. So Ralph Nader came out, and early on he had a video on Bernie Sanders, and he said that Bernie Sanders. This was before he even ran. He had a talk with him, and this is what the video says. So I'm actually paraphrasing what the video said. And basically, Bernie Sanders was saying that, oh, I don't expect to win, but I just want to pull in the younger generations to get involved in the democratic politics, you know. but my I know I'm not gonna win, and that's not my goal. My goal is to get the younger generation to vote for a Democrat. Basically, that's just paraphrasing. That's not my word for word. That's not what word for word, but it's paraphrasing it. And so Ralph Nader like came out and said that. I'm like, oh wow, like he already like it seems like Bernie Sanders already knew that he wasn't gonna win, and he knew that his agenda was just to pull younger people to vote for someone in the Democratic establishment. So I was aware of that, you know, kind of like at the beginning, and so I'm like, okay, I kind of ignored it because I liked what Bernie Sanders was talking about so much, all this, opposing injustice, systemic injustice, and a lot of us Chicanos are all into that stuff, But but then it's like, you know, he ends up getting screwed over by Hillary Clinton, and a lot of people involved in the Bernie Sanders campaign saw that and exposed that there's basically an elite establishment even in the Democratic Party, and it's basically it's not for the people and by the people. You have a structure in there where it involves what's called super delegates, and these super delegates claim that they represent the people, right? But it's a corrupt system where it's basically elitists are the ones who determine who who actually wins the the Democratic you know um, campaign, who wins to be a Democrat elected official, and so the super delegates chose Hillary Clinton instead of Bernie Sanders, who had more votes. So that to me is like, wait a minute, there's some elitist corruption going on here. I'm like, this whole structure is corrupt. And there was people from the Bernie Sanders campaign that complained about this, and exposed it, and so I saw the corruption there, and then it was all, what happened. It was Trump versus Hillary, and Hillary had such a bad reputation that people, especially the people in the Bernie Sanders campaign, all the Bernie crats and everything, we didn't want to vote for Trump, obviously because he's a Republican, and we didn't want to vote for Hillary because of her corruption as well. So a lot of us went the third party route, and some of us went, either libertarian or Green Party or different types of parties. There's so many, but I went and I saw Jill Stein almost saying the same thing as Bernie Sanders. So I was like, no, I'm not going to vote for Trump or Hillary. I'm um, I'm basically going to vote for this Jill Stein. And Jill Stein she was pretty good on a lot of politics. And my only thing is this is that, you know, why it's like I sat back and I thought, wait a minute, why is there no Chicanos? Why are we not there? Why isn't there more Chicano people, Chicanos being represented? You know, you don't have Chicano politicians, in the Republicans or Democrats, hardly like the main ones. I'm talking about the main people, or even the third party Green parties. And you have sometimes a few, but they don't get fully, like, they don't reach the end, like, in some sense, like, of being elected. They they uh they high cut, they run, but they don't get all the votes. So there is an elitist establishment going on, even in amongst the third party, Green Party, and I mean all these libertarian, all these other parties. Um, so it's like I kind of like saw even in amongst the third party, it's like it's just basically you know non Chicanos are always being are at the forefront or always represented. Chicanos are rarely represented in any of these parties. And the only time you hear about brown politics is like on immigration. And as you guys know, I don't believe that we're, native, brown, Chicanos, Mexicans, natives. I don't believe any of us are um, illegal. You know, I come from the Chicano movement. And we believe that all this European governments are colonial. All these borders are they're colonial, and that our people existed here way before any Europeans invaded these lands. So we've been here for thousands and thousands of years. We've been migrating back and forth, traveling. You know, so that's my stance on the whole immigration thing. Um, so and that kind of like um, challenges both the Republicans and the Democrats, because a lot of people just accuse the Republicans as being, oh, they're the ones that are full of hate and anti-immigrant. Um, but then the liberals, the Democrats, they're doing the same thing. They're enforcing the border as well, and they're making it harder for brown folks to become legal citizens and all that. And what's kind of weird is sometimes Republicans allow, immigrants, say from Mexico and Central America, to become citizens at a faster rate than some of these Democrats out here. And what's weird is too is that like people like Obama, who's supposedly a liberal and Democrat, he had the highest deportation rate, you know. And but what's weird is the Republicans are the ones that are always labeled the bad guys, right? And I'm not really defending any Republicans or Democrats or anything like that. But yeah, the whole third party thing stuff, I kind of saw it as it's not enough Chicanos are being represented there. And I thought about back in the day how back in the Chicano movement when it started in the 60s and 70s, how we had a political party and La Raza Unida. And, I actually know some people from there. And eventually it had at the beginning, had a good agenda. Is like Chicanos were fed up with the two party corrupt system, and so we our people just say, hey, let's start up our own party, La Raza Unida, and we'll push our politics. So that was a good idea right there, and you had different popular Chicanos and the Chicano movement and everything. But then later on, it got infiltrated, or some of them sold out to the Democratic establishment. And I guess one of their one of their excuses is that, oh, you can't do much as a third party, or it's like you don't get enough funding or you don't get enough support and you don't really have much influence. And similar to what Bernie Sanders, you know, what he said about that as well, because he was a third party for a long time. But this is why they become a Democrat. But then what happens is when you join the Democratic establishment, it's like it corrupts you. it corrupts you. Power and, you know, corporate agendas, you know, and the hard thing is that you need funding, right, to be elected, right? If you don't get funded, you could say goodbye to your political career. And so the only way to get funded most of the times, you know, Bernie Sanders was definitely getting funded from other people and everything. But somewhere down the line, there's somebody that's going to fund you that's corrupt, you know, or you allow, you know, and it has to sometimes be a corrupt corporation. And and so what happens is people they sell out, you know, they sell out to the establishment, and it's they may act like they're all revolutionary and all about change, but it's all talk, right? And they don't further their action and complete it, you know. You know, so it's a lot of promises. So even in the Chicano community, we call them politicos, right? And they're like, you know, even Chicanos that get involved in politics, they get they get corrupted by the system as well, and they end up selling out, you know. And they even talk about, hey, you know what, you know, it's like they even justify themselves as being sellouts. It's like, oh no, no, I'm successful, you're not. So, but we're thinking about political change here, you know. So it's not about yourself; it's about the community. But yeah, the you know a lot of us, a lot of Chicanos eventually joined the Democratic establishment and got corrupted there, and so we're led by liberal white agendas, and that's the whole issue right there, you know, liberal white politics. And I like what Malcolm X says that, you know, with the Republican, the conservative, you can respect him in some sense because you know what his agenda is. He's out front and straight up with his agenda. You know what he's all about. But with the white liberal, it's the problem with them is that they act like they're your friend, but then behind your back, they're they're working against your interests. They're plotting against you, or they're using you to become a superstar or some. They're kind of like culture vultures in some sense, political pimps. You know, that's basically what Malcolm X said back in the day. I'm just kind of giving my own words to it, but that's basically what Malcolm X thought about this whole politics and everything. So, um, so after that whole thing where Trump won, you know, a lot of people got even manipulated by the mainstream media. You know, all this social media was like, you know, was bashing Trump. And what's weird is that Trump and his policies was not as bad as Hillary Clinton's, you know. and and I'm not defending Trump. I think Trump is also, um, you know, he's also corrupt as well, but not as corrupt as some of these Democrats and liberals, you know. So, um, so I saw that what Trump was doing. I was like, wait a minute, you know, when Trump was a president, he didn't, he didn't lead a major war. I'm like, interesting, interesting. Whereas Hillary Clinton influenced Obama to, you know, invade Middle Eastern countries and everything. And she was a warmonger, right? And she would put a white feminist face to it, right? As a lot of us in the Chicano community says, okay, be careful with this white feminism because it's just white supremacy disguised as a white female. And so, um, you know, I have to be careful on YouTube here because they censor people. So even talking about white supremacy and all that stuff, they censor you. Um, so yeah, so I saw what was going on, with the whole Democratic establishment, and then you had the corruption of the Republicans. So then came later, all this anti-Trumpism, and oh, he's a white supremacist, and he's this and that, he's a bigot and everything. Um, but yeah, he would say stuff that was not appropriate. But then at times he would, he did certain actions that that they were um, they were beneficial for society sometimes. And so Trump was kind of like, he was your typical Republican. He was kind of like, say you have Bernie Sanders as for the Democratic establishment, challenging the Democratic establishment. Trump was like uncontrollable. He said what he wanted, and what I liked about him, he was a good businessman, and a businessman, like, they would rather negotiate than to go at war. And don't get me wrong, Trump was involved in, you know, low profile type war, like the military. Actually, you say the military industrial complex. It don't matter if it's a Democrat or a Republican, but they're gonna do their thing. But when Trump was in office, they were doing some of these drone attacks in the Middle East. So Trump is not that innocent, but he's not as bad as Hillary Clinton, you know, as being sparking a major war, you know. So um, so then I saw all this manipulation, all the social media, all the mainstream social media, and it got a lot of Chicanos backing that, right? And they were all stirred up, and oh, Trump is a white supremacist and he's the bad guy and this and that. And my analysis of Trump is that he wasn't as bad as some of these liberals out here, these Democrat presidents at times. Um, and I actually learned that a lot of these Democrat presidents were corrupt, yes, and even worse than Republicans at times. I learned this from the whole Bernie Sanders campaign, especially when analyzing Obama's policies, analyzing Bill Clinton's policies, Hillary Clinton's policies, and all that. Very corrupt, especially in terms of corporate interests. So yeah, so what, Trump was in office, and all this mainstream media labeling him as the bad guy, and then a new election came about, and then now it was like, okay, Bernie Sanders was running again. So I was like, okay, um, I saw that Bernie caved in to Hillary Clinton. You know, he was telling all the Bernie crats to vote for Hillary, not for Trump. So I was a little disappointed right there, and I was a little surprised because he was actually, when he was running against Hillary Clinton, he was exposing her, and her corruption. But now he caved in and started supporting her. So that was a little weird for me. So I'm like, nah, nah, nah. So after that, I knew about Hillary Clinton and her corruption, and so then comes the whole campaign to reelect, I guess a president or something like that. And so you had the Democrats running again, and and there was some good politicians that were, I saw Tulsi Gabbard, you know, Bernie Sanders, and there was some third parties that were pretty good too. and then you had Trump, right, and his Republicans too. So what happened is Trump eventually won against all the other, competitors, and and then you had the whole Democratic, you know, campaign, like people running against each other. It was a whole bunch, and so I was like, okay, should I vote for Tulsi Gabbard or Bernie Sanders because they both sound pretty good? And then I was like, wait, Tulsi Gabbard was an ex-military lady, so I'm like, I'm not into the whole military-industrial complex, so I don't have that agenda. I'm anti-war in some sense. I do believe in self-defense to some extent, but I don't like the history of militarism and the government out here and how they use the military to conquer and colonize people throughout the world. So I'm, and it's a money making machine as well, profiting off the spoils of war and everything. So Tulsi Gabbard was like, I'm not really, but I like some of the stuff that she was saying though. And so I was like, okay, Bernie Sanders again, even though he he kind of betrayed us by promoting Hillary Clinton, So I was like, okay, I'm gonna give Bernie Sanders another chance, right? And then we have these other guys, I think it's Buttigieg or something like that, and and then you had then you had Biden. They were all running against each other, and Bernie he was getting the most votes out of all of them, And I thought, oh wow, he's gonna win, And all of a sudden, towards the end, and Biden, his he had low votes, like low votes, like hardly any votes, you know. And I'm like, man, it's like this. And I saw like his campaigns, nobody was really there, and he wasn't getting that much support. And then even his competitors, who were not non Bernie Sanders competitors, had were getting more votes than Biden. And then towards the end, I saw some funny, corrupt stuff going on where the competitors, were all giving their votes. They all gave their votes to Biden. And so Bernie was winning, and all of a sudden Biden came out. It's like he was almost at like he came from the bottom and all the way boom like that, like out of nowhere overnight. I was watching all the data and all what was going on. I said, what the heck? And there's this Buttigieg and all these other guys. Buttigieg was he was a big critic of Bernie Sanders, but then he goes and gives his votes to Biden, and all these other guys combined all their votes to give to Biden, and this is how Biden eventually caught up to Bernie Sanders. And then I saw, what the heck? This is scandalous. Like, what the heck? I didn't even know you could even do that. I'm like, it seems like there's a secret society in this whole Democratic establishment. I'm like, man, this is just crazy. So, and then eventually they were pairing off, and then the corrupt super delegates stepped in again to screw Bernie Sanders, and they all voted pretty much for Biden. And this is how he won. So Biden, in my point of view, he was not um, he it's like the way he won was scandalous, and I was all heck no, this is corrupt to the core. This whole system, you know, democratic politics is corrupt to the core. So I'm like, nah, this is not cool. So Biden ended up beating everybody else, and then it was a score off between Biden and Trump. And so I started look. I Bernie Sanders was already exposing Biden and his corruption. A lot of Bernie crats were, how he was a warmonger and he created like a law to harshly incarcerate people who were caught with, you know, um, smoking weed and stuff like that, and um, how he was involved in a lot of stuff. There was even some videos that came out, and it was a recording of Biden saying some racist stuff about, you know, black people, and saying racist stuff about Mexican immigrants and all that. So I'm like, what the heck? How can these brown and black people be, you know, vote supporting Biden? You know, and so what happened is it was Trump versus Biden, and then I saw, I was taking a look at Trump's policies, and I was like, wait a minute, he's not a warmonger. He didn't cause some major wars. Biden had a bad history of being a warmonger. So I'm like, wait a minute. And I was saying, wait, Trump, he actually did some good stuff for business. So as you guys know, I'm into business and stuff like that, and entrepreneurship and all that. My friends were all into business and everything. So I was like, okay, I know Trump is all he's labeled as a white supremacist and a bad guy and this and that. But then I look into Biden, he's even worse. He has all this like bad track history. I'm like, heck no. I go, I'm not gonna vote for Biden. So I got ticked off. I got ticked off with the corruption of the Democrats, how Biden screwed over Bernie Sanders, how the Democratic Party screwed over Bernie Sanders. So I wanted revenge. I wanted revenge. So some of us Bernie crats said, you know what? Screw all you Democrats, and they went and voted for Trump. And then I saw that Trump wasn't going to mandate stuff. You know what I'm saying? I can't say certain words because there's algorithms here, but you know what I'm talking about. And so I say, okay, you know, the lesser of two evils is I decided was Trump. So I voted for Trump, and yeah, and I shocked a lot of us conscious heads. We got fed up. Some of us Bernie crats voted for Trump. Some of us, I mean, even in the black conscious community, voted for Trump. They liked him for his business, you know. So, um, but then later on, it's like, okay, Biden ends up winning, right? And then we eventually saw all the unraveling of the Biden corruption occurring, the whole lockdown stuff, where during the lockdowns, uh, corporations were getting the biggest bailouts, or small businesses were being destroyed. So you could go walk around at a Walmart or some big corporation, but you couldn't go to a mom and pop business and buy anything there. And that was like, wait a minute, there's some corruption going on here. That's not good. That's not cool. So a lot of small business people, their livelihoods were destroyed, you know, and they lost income, they lost their houses, they lost their, families paying the bills and their family, all this stuff. So um, stuff like that occurred, and then I'm like, dang, this Biden's corrupt. And then all the way until now, it's like where Biden's leading the country to a major war right now. There could be a possible major world war right now with the West versus Russia, and this is a dangerous situation that's going on. And there was a patriarch from Russia just announced that basically, I'm trying to paraphrase it, but if the West wants to get rid of Russia, you can basically say there's going to be an end of humanity, because they have nukes. And so there could be a possibility that there could be nuclear warfare, and this is what Biden and his warmongering machine is leading to, and it's a dangerous situation out here, and a lot of people are not paying attention to this, and this is not good, and so we see all this corruption occurring with Biden, and then it's like, okay, it's really corrupt, like I'm like, so the way I am right now is like I'm kind of like I embraced what's called anarchism, and I found out there's a whole history of even Chicano anarchism, and you know, as you guys know, I'm a decolonial Christian as well, Chicano Christian, Native Christian, and I'm into Christian anarchism as well. So, but I'm kind of leading towards anarcho capitalism. So the way I am is, I no longer embrace Marxism. I mean communism. Um, I do believe in social policies in some sense. So I'm like in between. So I'm like, okay, sometimes there needs to be certain social programs to help the unfortunate and poor and stuff, the homeless. But at the same time, I do believe in capitalism where there should be a free market in some sense, where people um, can buy and sell and make some profit. Um, a lot of people are against um, capitalism because of property, like owning property and stuff like that. They claim that that was an indigenous concept, but I would come back and say, well, wait a minute. Native communities were very territorial, and they did have certain lands. It might not have been individuals owning certain land, but it was groups of people who were kind of like councils who had certain pieces of land. Because if you go with that argument that, oh, we reject capitalism because of you know because the white man took our lands and stuff like that, and then you want to say the land doesn't belong to anyone, then that kind of like allows them to kind of colonize the land as well, so it can backfire. So my thing is this: natives did have lands out here. They just didn't own it in the sense of capitalism, but they had territories where they occupied it, and and if you came on their territory and trying to boot them off, they did defend themselves throughout history. So we have to challenge this whole Marxist. Um, well, I see a lot of it coming from the Marxists and their critique of capitalism. But then the Marxists start promoting statism. And so here's where my Chicano anarchism or Christian anarchism comes into play, where the Marxists and the communists are into statism, and they you know they believe the state, a communist state, should have you know ownership or control over all the resources, and I don't agree with that. So that's why I'm kind of like a political anarchist in some sense right now. Um, but even the term anarchist can be colonizing at times. So um, a lot of people think of these white liberals that are, we saw the corruption with the so-called anarchists that were supporting Biden, which is a contradiction because a true anarchist is not going to support any political party and to
and to be involved in it. So, and we have this whole thing about, being anti-fascist and this and that, but then it's like, okay, you label only one party as being fascist, but you don't also see the fascism within Democrat, the Democratic Party and their politics. Especially when they started pushing these fascist mandates on everyone and controlling people and this and that. So here's the thing: it's like, let's oppose fascism, whether it's Republican or Democrat or any other form. So the way I am is, I'm into what's called anarchism, Chicano anarchism, and I say Chicano too because the white anarchists have their agendas. They still want to occupy our lands, and we all know that colonial history is like these lands belong to the natives, to the brown folks of these lands. So I even challenge even the white anarchists to really think about, you know, their settler colonialism, you know, and their occupation of these lands. Because when it comes to politics, like overall, the European colonizers do not want to give up their resources and all the resources in the land that they accumulated from colonization. They may sound like a communist or a socialist or anarchist or revolutionary or culturalist, but they will not give up their resources and their wealth and their uh, their occupation of these lands. They will not give it back to the native people, what you call the red and brown people out here. None of that. So, so that's why I say Chicano anarchism in that sense. And people say, "Oh, how can you be a Christian? How can you be a Christian anarchist and all that?" Well, here's the thing. My thing is, back in my involvement in the Chicano community, I used to be anti-Christian because of its bad history, colonial history. But then I found out that the true gospel, the early Christian movement, was um, was revolutionary and even challenged the Roman Empire, the system at that time, the religious system of that time. And so, in a sense, Jesus was a revolutionary. He was basically introducing what's called the kingdom of God. And the kingdom of God was totally opposed to the kingdoms of this world. So the kingdoms of this world were corrupt, right? All about um, me, myself, and I, power, money, having their, slaves and this and that. The kingdom of God wasn't like that. So I made a distinction between Jesus in the early Christian movement versus when Christianity was absorbed by the Roman Empire, the states, right? And this is when it got corrupt, and it's the state, not religion, that started a lot of imperialism and a lot of colonialism. So as soon as the Roman Empire was already colonial, they were even prior to them embracing Christianity. Um, they were already conquering and colonizing nations as a pagan nation. They had all these beliefs and cults and all these other little deities, and they embraced all of them, and they were conquering everybody, enslaving everybody, and you had to pay taxes to them, right? And at one time, when the whole Christian movement started, they were oppressing Christians and murdering them and colonizing them. Like, so we got to know that history, and a lot of us Chicanos are not taught this kind of history in Chicano studies or anything like that. I've dealt with the whole thing. Right now, Chicano studies is now embracing uh, decolonial perspectives on Christianity. They're embracing Christianity, but with a Chicano decolonial perspective. So They now it's called brown theology. The people leading that right now is at UCLA right now. I that's my where I graduated from, and there's scholarship now. You know, challenging Chicano studies because a lot of Chicano studies comes from the 60s and 70s. A lot of them embraced Marxist atheism. They were anti-religion, but a lot of us don't know that the many churches were involved in facilitating, and a lot of Christians, religious people were involved in the early Chicano movements. So you can't separate that history. It's what they saw social justice in the Bible that motivated them to promote social justice. So a lot of Chicanos don't know about that. Um, you know, but yeah, so I go back as a Chicano Christian anarchist and say, okay, early Christian, the early Christian movement was revolutionary and promoting the kingdom of God, which was different from the kingdoms of the earth. The kingdom of God is what Jesus taught: having compassion for others, loving one another, um, siding with the poor in some sense, um, challenging the economic system, you know, just different things like that. So you find a lot of that in in the you know in the words of Jesus and his actions, and even amongst the disciples and stuff like that. So, but then here's the thing: the Chicanos and the decolonial nativists, they see Christianity as later on, as when it came to the Americas, they label and paint all Christianity as bad and evil because of what happened to the natives here by Europeans who called themselves Christians, and they came and took the land, and they enslaved, they committed genocide on natives, and they sometimes use religion or Christianity to justify themselves. And sometimes the church even back back them up, at times. But we have to get to the root though, because the church wasn't like this prior to its absorption into the Roman Empire. So we have to know that somewhere down the line, early Christianity changed and got corrupted by the state, by the Roman Empire. And then that's when it started spreading to all the different governments. So the root is governments, corrupt governments that are all about power and wealth and imperialism. That's the root, not Christianity. Okay, so we got to make that distinction between statist Christianity and true, authentic Christianity that's exemplified by Jesus Christ. He's the standard, right? And you saw when Jesus colonized, I mean, not colon, my bad, not colonized, uh, when Jesus evangelized, right? He didn't say, "Oh, go and take people's lands and enslave them if they don't believe in this, and you know commit genocide." No, Jesus actually, when he went out and spread his wisdom, his liberation, you know, he went to different neighborhoods in the ghettos, right? Galilee was known as the ghetto of that time, and and he was just spreading the good news. And if you didn't want to believe in it, he wouldn't enslave you. He wouldn't mistreat you or oppress you. He would just, okay, if they don't. He told his disciples, if they don't want to listen to you know the word, basically, then shake off the sandals from the dust from your sandals and just move on. you know and That's how missionary was in the early Christian movement. But then later on, it got corrupted by the state, by the state politics, right? This is where the whole political stuff comes into. And so when the European colonizers came to the Americas, I would say they weren't even truly following Christ, because if they follow Christ, I don't even think there's a possibility that they weren't even saved, many of them. Because when you follow Jesus and his example, you're not going to be enslaving and colonizing. If you're a disciple of Christ, you're going to be promoting peace. Jesus said, "Blessed are the peacemakers," you know, and he, you're not going to come, if you're a true Christian, you're not going to be doing all of that stuff that they did during colonial times. So I don't even think a lot of these guys were even truly Christians. They may have probably grew up in the church or whatever, but when you're colonizing people and enslaving them and taking their land and committing genocide, that is not true Christianity. But here's the issue: there's a reaction, which is understandable. And I even had this view that all Christianity is bad and colonial, it's the white man's religion and everything. And so I had that view until I started studying more in depth in Christianity, the early Christian movement, liberation theology, Christian anarchism, native theology, stuff like that. Um, so, as Chicanos, we got to learn that the corrupt politics of statism corrupted Christianity. We got to know the difference between colonial Christianity and true, authentic Christianity, which is the true gospel of peace, love, harmony, you know, um, truth and wisdom and all that. Um, so yeah, I don't even know how I got into this, but this whole thing on politics is very interesting. Oh, okay, it was about anarchism. So, and then the whole Chicano, so that's just a little Christian anarchism, is that we believe in no king. There's no king but King Jesus in some sense. Uh, we only bow down to God, and that's it. You know, we don't bow down to any man. So there's anarchists who are anti-religion. They don't believe in God. But then there's other anarchists who are there's Christian anarchists were involved in the early anarchist movements, you know, and uh, and you got a lot of famous ones as well, um, that were Christian anarchists early on, early on in the whole anarchist movement. And I actually read even you know well actually let me backtrack. So so yeah, Christian anarchism is it's interesting stuff. And we don't believe in statism. We don't believe in Christianity should be intertwined with the state because it gets corrupted. All these pastors that are, nonprofits and all that, they're controlled by the state and everything. We believe in more of a community, just like the early Christian community. People, you know, um, in a spread, kind of like treating each other as Jesus did, with love, compassion, wisdom, care, and different things like that. And we see statism as corrupt, and it corrupts religion, and so that's my take on the whole Christian anarchism. Now, Chicanos have a whole history of anarchism as well. So, um, Chicanos, early on, there's, you know, right around the Mexican Revolution, a lot of thinkers who were Mexican um, embraced anarchism, and and we find that amongst the shoot, here we go with the names again. I'm trying to remember the names. Let's see here. Actually, I'm gonna have to end. Well, actually, I'm not gonna end it because I know on Instagram they have a certain time, limited time. But I think it's already like 1 hour. I've been on this politics for a while. I didn't know it was gonna go this long. But I'm trying to remember their names. Shoot. What are their names? There's some brothers. Um, Magon. That's what it is. Magon. The Magon brothers were promoting anarchism in Mexico, especially during the whole revolution. And they influenced the EZLN, the Zapatistas, and all that. So there's some anarchist history amongst Mexicans, and that the whole Mexican Revolution also influenced the Chicano movement. So Chicano anarchism, we have a long history of it. So don't think that we just only have the option of Republicans and conservatives and Democrats or liberals or Marxist communists who are also statists. We also have an alternative to all that, and we have Mexican Chicano brown anarchism. I even go and say indigenous anarchism. If you actually read a book by Jack Weatherford, who was an anthropologist, he actually says that anarchism actually came from natives out here, and it influenced the political thought of the Europeans when they colonized over here. And there was a lot of natives who opposed the statism of the colonizers, and they believe in kind of like consensus volunteerism, um, kind of like the golden rule in Christianity, like um, treat others as you want it to be treated in some sense, do no harm, and it's kind of like being a community and having consensus on different things too. And he even argues that the form of democracy was more egalitarian amongst the natives over here. It was more consensus based, and it wasn't kind of like the corrupt democracy that we see amongst the Greeks or amongst the United States right now. There's actually an illusion of democracy. They push this democracy and they use this to say, "Oh, we we need to go spread democracy in the around the world, and at the same time, we're going to take your lands and enslave your people." Right? That's the illusion of democracy. And even some Republicans will say, "Oh, we don't want a democracy. We want a republic." But even a republic is elitist and corrupt as well. So you got these elites, the statism, whether it's a Democrat state, a Republican state, even a communist state. These communists even have some bad history too of their statism, where they oppress certain people as well, and they hoard all the resources and wealth. So, um, I'm not too much into this whole statist politics out here. So I encourage Chicanos to really look into that whole Chicano anarchism and even reconsider decolonial Christianity from a native perspective, a Chicano perspective, um, and, take a look into the Christian anarchism as well. Very interesting um, take on anarchism, and definitely. But even be critical of white anarchism as well. So so um, yeah, so the politics out here, it's corrupt. It's led by all these special interests, corporate dirty money, uh, both the liberals and conservatives, and none of them push any authentic Chicano interests. they may use us sometimes. They'll use the whole immigration issue, right, to get us on board with all their corrupt policies and politics. We got to stop falling for that. And I guess the best thing we can do is grassroots community politics in some sense, or make a change in our communities. Pull our resources together and really spark change. You know, and empowerment in our communities. Um, this is like true, true politics in some sense. It seems like the higher you get, the more corrupt it gets. It involves a lot of corrupt money where people sell out. And I'm not against money, right? It's good to have resources and abundance and make money, right? But you know, depending on where the money's coming from and even how you're using the money, are you accepting dirty, corrupt money? Are you using money for corrupt interests to support certain parties and everything and their corruption? So, as you guys know, yeah, I voted for Trump, but I no longer am pro Trump. You know, I just did it because I wanted revenge. I wanted revenge on Biden and his corruption, the Democratic establishment. So I voted for Trump instead. But now I'm critical of Trump as well. He's now even amongst Republicans, they see him as he's kind of like flip flopping. He's double minded and he's corrupt, and he's promoting certain things I can't mention here on YouTube, but that makes you wonder, hey, you know, he's a two face too as well, and Biden's corrupt as well, so he can't be trusted and all that, and definitely, but I say don't look at these political saviors out here. These guys are corrupt. Pauline, the whole political system is corrupt. So it's important that us Chicanos as a community start working with each other, promoting empowerment, success, you know, conscious entrepreneurship. You don't have to always be working for the man. You could be actually, creating your own networks of business and economy out here. Back in the day, natives had a barter system before even capitalism. um, but we live in a capitalist world right now, so we have to kind of deal with it, to make ends meet. But like I said, the politics, involves a lot of stuff, but we're not going to have a pure, good, authentic political system, economic system at this point. So, best thing is to you be the change, and be the change and spark change in your communities, spark change in the, political opinion, the global opinion as well, and get involved in social activism, get involved in your communities and different groups out here, social media, be an influencer in some sense, not the corrupt influencers out here who are paid off, but I'm talking about influencer in the sense is that you're you're promoting justice, you're promoting, um, truth, wisdom, righteousness, compassion, love, peace, stuff like that, But definitely, anyways, I guess nobody's here in my chat, so I'm gonna keep making more videos and building an audience. So maybe later on, I can have people come on my chat and join me and discuss different topics. And I guess sometimes I might even have some interviews here from people who are, different types of people who are, who want to drop knowledge and everything. Um, if you want to join my interviews, or just dialogues, um, definitely add me on Instagram and send me a message, and my Instagram link is down there. Just send me a message and say, hey, let's do let's have some conversations on certain topics, and as long as it's not the type of topics that gets you censored, right? Because YouTube is all, they censor hardcore here. But anyways, don't forget to subscribe to my channel, and if you want to dig deeper, go to my Rumble link, click on it, and subscribe to it. I upload a lot of dope videos, dropping knowledge, consciousness. Click on my Rumble link below, and add me on Instagram too. Sometimes when I'm on the go, I just go on Instagram and just talk about different things. Um, on YouTube, I'm more like, okay, I have to be located at a certain place, on the computer in order to do a YouTube live broadcast. But when I'm mobile, I go on the Instagram thing and I just talk about different things. But definitely join me on those platforms: Instagram, Rumble, and I'm also on Twitter. Click on the link too. On Twitter, I'm just there's a lot of us on Twitter. Twitter is not censored, so we're just sharing all kinds of knowledge. I'm like, I'm following a lot of dope people, on there, and I'm just like reposting a lot of stuff. Or sometimes I post my own tweets too as well. But definitely, a lot of us are anti. Some people are anti Elon Musk. Elon Musk is something else. Yeah, he can. He's a transhumanist, and he's on that agenda, and but at least he's opening up dialogue. He's not censoring people. Um, I don't fully I'm not like one of those wagoners, bandwagon type people, but I will say that at least there's more people can express themselves more on Twitter. Um, although I think there's still a little bit of censorship there, but then I think sometimes he lifts those censorships there, and there some people are back on, but at least it's not as bad as these other platforms where you get censored for talking about certain topics. So you can share your thoughts and ideas and share other people's thoughts and ideas. So we're just on there, just dropping knowledge. So join me on my Twitter down there, and definitely, it's pretty. Gotta spread the consciousness. Don't forget to subscribe, spread the consciousness, and let others know about my channels on Instagram, Twitter, or right here on YouTube. Anyways, this is the Conscious Chicano, and I'm out.